This is the Trading Psychology Podcast. This is VP, creator of No Nonsense Forex and author of the book, No Nonsense Forex Trading Psychology. And with me, as always, is Rob.
Hey everybody, this is Robb Reinhold with Maverick Currencies, and I'm the risk manager who oversees over 100 traders every day as they enter and exit trades in Forex and crypto.
And episode 3 is sponsored by none other than Maverick Trading. Rob, tell us all about Maverick Trading for those who don't know.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Maverick Trading, founded in 1997. We are a broker-dealer. We transitioned to prop trading in 2007, and we specialize in stock and options in our Maverick Trading division. In 2009, we opened up our Forex trading division called Maverick Currencies, and we added crypto recently about 2021 to our trading products on Maverick Currencies. So if you've ever thought about trading prop, come check us out, and I'll put up our websites right here.
So the best goddamn prop firm in the world just added currencies to the mix. So you can now be a prop crypto trader if you wanted to. Super exciting. Okay, let's move into episode 3 because I guess this probably plays really well off of episode 2. Episode 2, we got deep, like deeper than I ever get. It's good to have both of us here this time around. So this is another one of Rob's episodes. And so I think what we'll do is what we did last time. Just kind of let Rob go and I'll jump in where I can and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Patrick. In the last episode, we discussed genetics, and I gave everyone a link to go take a trading personality test based on the Myers-Briggs profile. There's a whole lot more I could have gotten into, but time is always an issue. I'm going to throw that ball in your court. If you want to go take a look more about DNA, nature, personality styles, go knock yourself out. In this episode, we're going to cover the other side. We have nature and nurture. So nature is who you are baked in your DNA. Really difficult to change that because it's literally who you are. If you are a highly stressed person, you can't just tell someone like that, hey, just be chill. It doesn't work like that. And if you're a really chill person, you can't just tell that person, hey, don't be chill. It doesn't work like that. You can't change those attributes. That is who you are. In this episode, I really want to focus on your nurture. Nurture is basically what you were taught by other people, and then what you learned through experience in your life. However old you are to a point here that your nature, your DNA has shaped a lot of your decisions of who you are, and then you have your experiences that have shaped those even more. You're going to take all of those into the world of trading, and some of those things are going to be really good for you, and some of them are going to be really bad. Before we jump into this, I want to introduce 2 really great books. The first is called The Behavioral Investor by Daniel Crosby. This is about behavioral economics. We talked about this in episode 0. Behavioral economics is why do people do what they do with money? It is finance and psychology mixed. The second book is The Hour Between Dog and Wolf by John Coates. This is one of my favorite books. It's a pretty deep read. This is a former bank trader, floor trader, and hedge fund trader who quit in the middle of their career, went back to medical school, got their neurology degree because they wanted to know what is going on in the brain when people take risk.
I'm really glad you mentioned these books too, because people ask me for book recommendations all the time, and I only have a small handful to give them. So there's 2 more for you if you really want to get deep and nerdy. That is, I've heard of Behavioral Investor before. I'd never heard of that second one.
It's kind of a play on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, Hour Between Dog and Wolf, one is rational, and then all of a sudden at some point, the rationality goes. What is happening in the brain when those decisions are made? And that's really what I want to talk about is what is happening in your brain when you sit down and you make a trade. We all think that we're sitting down, we're clear-headed, we don't have any baggage that we're bringing with us, and we're making a logical, rational decision. Well, that may not be true. And actually, the whole point of being a trader is to get to where every time you sit down to make a decision, you are truly centered. You truly don't have any other garbage in your brain. And you actually are making rational, logical decisions. And we need to understand that that doesn't always happen. There are things in our past, our programs that we've written in our brain. Maybe you've been successful at everything you've done in your life and you're used to winning. And you go into the market and you say, oh, I should be winning. Why aren't I winning? And you think, well, in the past, I just tried harder and I won. Now, Patrick, I think you kind of mentioned this in the last episode about how you just had this expectation that you were going to win in trading. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I came in with so much overconfidence because I learned everything so quickly, and so I had that aptitude that I usually don't have. As smart as I was over time, there's just a lot of subjects that just never took. But Forex was, I mean, just absorbed that stuff like a sponge. And so I was just eager to just crush the market. And I felt like because I learned it so fast and I was already naturally intelligent that it was just a matter of time before that became my main job. Not the case. The market, sat me down real quick.
So, Patrick, have you ever thought to yourself, all these years later, I wonder what was actually going on in my brain?
I guess I've never wondered that. I couldn't even tell you what was going on in my brain. Probably, the visions of sugar plums and mansions and yachts and just not having to answer to a boss anymore. Things like that. Probably that was always my motivation because I was trading the 15-minute chart on Pacific Standard Time, which on the London Open was starting at midnight. So you need things to motivate you after you come home from a hard day's work. And so I think it was those dreams that I had that just kind of kept me going. So that's probably what I was thinking of. Like I said, a long time ago. I don't really know exactly what was going on up there.
And I'm going to go even deeper than that because I think you were exactly right. All of those thoughts you had, all of those are drivers of why you did things. But I want to go even deeper to the literal chemicals that were going on in your brain at the time. Like, let's just take dopamine. The first time you made your trade that was profitable and you actually won money, do you remember how that felt?
Extraordinary. Yeah, I took this big, bad market that so few people know about, and I went in there and I felt like I took it down. I went from, whatever money I started from to, a decent amount more. Now, I didn't have any really risk management, so it was actually a pretty big win, way bigger than it should have been. And then so I just extrapolated that out. I'm like, okay, if I can make this money every time I trade, oh man, this is going to be something else.
Right. So, did that experience set you up for a failure in your next trade, most likely?
Set me up to fail probably for the next 6 months because I wanted that feeling back, and I knew it was, again, like we said before, I said, okay, I just got to keep going and things are going to correct themselves and I'm going to be back plus money again and it's going to be blue skies ahead. But for the longest time, just never got there.
Yeah, so you had all these ideas of, hey, I didn't want to work a job. I don't want to have a boss. It's even more simple than that. You literally were chasing a dopamine rush. And when you hit it, it felt good. And that was all that you were trying to do at the time. I want to get down to this atomic level where, we think about this in all these big picture terms like, hey, I want to have freedom. I want to be able to be financially successful. Okay, that's nice. But let's get down to what's literally going on in the chemicals in your brain. Everything you do is releasing a chemical, and that chemical is going to cause you to act differently. And I want to share with you a couple of studies out of the Behavioral Investor book. These studies blew my mind. So let's just go over the first one. This first case study is about hunger, and you can go check this report out online. And basically, it is taking a bunch of judges. They took 8 judges. All of these judges had over 10 years of experience, so they were very experienced judges. They were assigned cases randomly. Now, this was for parole hearings, people who wanted to get out of prison. And what they found was that at the first of the day, parole was granted about 65% of the time. And then it started to drop. And the hour before lunch, the parole rate almost dropped to 0. And then after lunch, the parole rate jumped to 65% again and then trailed off through the end of the day.
Wait, so what you're saying is when it dropped down to 0, that means the hour before lunch, nobody who came up to the stand was getting parole.
Correct. I shouldn't say nowhere, but it was close to 0. Now, if you were to interview these judges, they would all tell you, no, I treat all of my cases the same. I don't give any different treatment to anybody. But yet the data was showing when they got hungry, they were less likely to grant parole. When I read this crushed my soul because I'm like, can you imagine someone had to spend a couple extra years in prison because the judge was hangry? That just kills me.
Yeah, and that's so weird because it doesn't even make a lot of sense to me. I mean, does it take longer to grant somebody parole than it does if you deny them parole? It seems like it would take the same amount of time. So what's the hurry? Why are they? Is it just the mood they were in?
It is mood. It is the mood they were in. And this is where there's so many things going on in our bodies and our minds that we think in these big picture terms, but I want to get down to this atomic level where we're literally talking about the chemicals in your mind. So the question is there a difference if you trade hungry? Now, look, there's no studies for me to show, but can that hunger affect your judgment? And the answer is yes. There are studies that show it. And this is just one of many studies about hunger. The next study I want to share with you is about sleep. Now, pharmacists have a very difficult test, and they put in lots of hours going through pharmacy school. They actually followed a bunch of students, and they basically found the students that slept less, they actually scored the worst on tests, and their performance lagged. Now, look, this is just one study on sleep. I challenge you to go out to the internet and pull up all the studies on sleep. You will see that cognitive ability declines with less sleep. So the question is, when you go and sit down to make a trade, sit down to analyze a potential trade, does the fact that you're hungry and tired, is that going to matter in your trading? And the answer is yes, it is. What do you think about that?
I would have to agree heavily. I mean, first on the surface, it's kind of obvious. Yeah, okay, if you're more tired, you're going to make worse decisions. I don't think we think about that when we sit down to trade, or we just don't think that factors in. I solved this problem by switching to the daily chart and only trading once a day, typically before work, so I didn't have any of that stress left over. But before that, boy, let me tell you, you know how I said I was starting my day pretty much at midnight Pacific Standard Time? I would just get back from work tired, dehydrated, usually upset over something. And then pretty much like an hour later, I would start my trading day. And I wondered why I wasn't just taking. I wonder why I wasn't rich yet. As obvious as it sounds, I don't think we think about this stuff, which is really interesting. I would like to hear you guys in the comments down below. When you have a rough week or a rough month or even just a rough session, do you factor this in at all? Because I certainly don't think I ever did. I can say that now that I look back on it. But at the time, I don't think I put two and two together.
Well, while we're airing some dirty laundry, let me share with you a few things I've done. No, look, we've all revenge trading. We'll do a whole episode on revenge trading. That one's pretty funny. Have you ever made a trade at like 3 a.m.? You literally just woke up, looked at your phone, made a trade, went back to sleep. Have you ever done that one? I have.
Oh, me, no, because then I have no control of the trade. So I would never do that.
Well, of course. I'm the extrovert. I need that stimulus even at 3 a.m. And you're an introvert, and you're like, no, I'm not gonna take the risk. Smart, very smart. I'd love to get to this point because, as you said, Patrick, a lot of us don't even think about, and we are thinking of much bigger things. And sometimes these little things really matter. And to be aware of them actually gives you power. If you're not aware of them, if you were just going through and say, every time I sit down in front of my computer, I am 100% clear, focused, and ready to go. That's a lie. You're not. And so before you sit down and trade, you need to go through a mental checklist of, okay, am I in the right place to trade correctly? Am I in the right frame of mind to put together logical decisions? Now, we tell all of our traders to have a daily ritual. Basically, it's a ritual to go through before you actually sit down to make trades to just make sure that you're in the right place. So you ask yourself stuff like, okay, are you trading because you're bored? Are you too tired to make a trade? Is there anything going on in your personal life that would cause you to not have rational decisions? We go through a checklist, and I know a lot of our traders, they actually meditate. Now, I have my own view on meditation. Patrick, what's your view on meditation?
I've never done it, probably because I never really thought I needed it. Maybe back then it would have served me, but I think back then I actually did think about it, but it just never got there. They didn't have the apps they have now. Recently, I feel like my mind's in a really good place, or has been probably for the last, 5-6 years. So I just don't feel like it's necessary. So I personally never have.
As I said, a lot of our traders go through meditation. And the whole point is to get to where you have a process to go through to when you sit down, you don't have any what we call baggage. Now, I'm going to be using this term baggage for all of our episodes. And baggage is stuff like what happened in your last trade. If you took a bad loss on your last trade, you are likely to bring that baggage into your next trade. Your goal is to come into every single trade with no baggage. And the only way to do that is to go through this daily ritual of, okay, am I in the right state of mind? Am I too tired? Am I hungry? What's going on? Basically, you can do that through meditation. I literally can't meditate. I've tried to meditate and I know all the ways to do it. I know how to try to get to that point. But the entire time I'm thinking, well, this isn't doing me any good. I could be doing something better. Now remember, I'm an extrovert. I'm an action junkie. I need that stimulus, and meditation is really tough for me. So I use exercise. Exercise is my meditation. So for me, that is meditation. To go out and lift weights hard, to go do some cardio, do something that clears my mind. And then when I sit down behind my system, I'm actually able to correctly look at things and I am clear-minded. Is there any daily rituals that you go through, Patrick, before you sit down for a trade?
Well, it's interesting because mine are pretty much the same. I work out about 3-4 times a week, put a podcast on, and then that's just my, personal time away from my computer, my apartment, everything. Now, I have 2 partial tears in my rotator cuff, so I haven't been able to do that a whole lot. So what I do instead is walk. I walk a lot. I mean, I don't have a step counter, but probably over 10,000 steps a day. And that has, at least for now, replaced, going to the gym. So I guess I do. I never really thought of it as anything really meditative, but I do notice a big difference if, maybe it's raining and I can't go out and do that. It's, things don't seem to fall into place the way they normally would.
These daily routines are so important. And I just want to share with everybody a couple of exercises or rituals that some of our traders go through. I have one trader that as soon as he exits a trade, he turns off his system and goes for a 30-minute walk. He does that to clear everything out to when he gets back, everything is gone. And this is my favorite one. This one's super dramatic, but it gets the point. I have one trader who writes down their trade on a piece of paper when they make it, and they keep that piece of paper on their desk. And then as soon as they exit that trade, they literally burn that piece of paper. Now, you think about it. I'm always very rational and reasonable, and I'm thinking all the stuff like, well, where does the ash go? And do you really want to sit in your office when it's all stinky with smoke? That's just where my mind goes. It's kind of a funny thing. This trader does it because it clearly shows this trade is over. It's done. There's no more. I don't have any more baggage about it. What do you think about burning up your trades?
I don't care how eccentric it seems on the surface. If it works for you, then that is exactly what you need to do. As long as you're not harming yourself or harming other people, I think it's great.
I totally agree. And this is where whatever works for you, it's going to be different for every single person. After this episode, I really want you to think about what routine you want to do. What are you going to do before every single trade where you clear out your baggage? You clear out what's ever going on in your personal life. You clear out whatever is going on from the last trades to where you are truly looking at this next trade with the correct brain chemicals. And again, I want to get down to that atomic level where your brain chemicals are in the right place. Your motivations are in the right place. Your brain is clear and free to think of things in the correct way. These little things are really going to make a difference to your trading performance. Be conscious of your brain chemistry. Be conscious of when you have 3 winners in a row, you are on a dopamine high, and your next trade is probably going to be lousy. That's my pattern. My pattern is the better I've done in the past, the worse I do in the future. So now I get very paranoid when I start to have delusions of grandeur of how great of a trader I am. I now know, this is when you fall. Be careful. These are the things you need to learn about what is going on inside of your brain because it's going to cause you to act. It's going to encourage you to act differently than you typically want to do it. That's really all I have. Patrick, do you have anything to add?
Well, I would like you to add one more thing if you don't mind. I'll throw you a bit of a curveball here to close out the show. My traders are different than most traders. As I alluded to before, I know not everybody who trades the no-nonsense Forex way does this. Most of us trade the daily chart, so we check in once a day. And often of times we have trades that are already open. So we don't have the option of saying, hey, I just had a bad day. I have all these crazy emotions swirling around in my head. I'm going to sit this one out. No, you have trades on the line and your stop loss might need adjusting. You might need to get ready to close out the trade because news is coming. There's stuff to do. You know, you don't just get to sit out. So if you are trading that way, what are some actionable things that those traders can do that kind of fall in line with the theme of this episode?
That is a great question. It's fine if you don't need to sit out. All I'm saying is you need to be aware. And so the question is, will that trader show up that day that they had a bad day at work, they had a bad whatever? Will they show up and continue to implement the current system? If the answer is yes, that's fine. They did it. They succeeded. If they go in and they mess with it, or they go in and make another trade, or for something else, they deviate from their system, that's the problem. And that's really what I'm talking about, is deviating from your system. These are the things that cause you to deviate from your system. You're not making bad choices. You've got brain chemistry that's trying to convince you, hey, get out. You have a profit. Get out now, or else you're going to lose it. Like, what if you literally just lost your job and you come home and you're up $1,000 on a trade? All of a sudden, that person's going to have in their brain, take your profit. You need this money. That's a mistake. That's a mistake because they're not following their system. So it all comes down to making sure your brain chemistry is correct to where you can follow your system.
Right on. Well, good. Well, we'll go ahead and close with that. Now, both of the books Robb mentioned, The Behavioral Investor and The Hour Between Dog and Wolf, we will have links to both of those books down below in the show notes, along with a link to Maverick Currencies if you want to check them out. And on that note, thanks for joining us here in episode 3. We'll be sure to see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Next week.